Welcome to another edition of Trunk and Tales as we navigate what is happening in the world of politics. I'm Stacy Smith, and if you're watching or listening to this podcast, I ask that you hit the like or the subscribe button. The government shutdown. Does either party win or lose? And what about the Democratic senators who broke rank? And will the impact and phenomenon of Charlie Kirk continue? We'll discuss that and more in this edition of Trunk and Tales. And with me to talk about this is one of my political analysts, and that would be Keith Schmidt. Keith's background is that he is a Republican. He served as the state director for the former Republican Senator of Pennsylvania, Rick Santorum. He also worked on Santorum's 2012 presidential bid. Keith has his own consulting firm now in Pittsburgh. Keith, how are you doing today?
I'm good. And Keith also started way back, 45 years ago this year as an intern for Ronald Reagan in his campaign, Governor Reagan for his campaign for presidency. It's just, I have vivid memories of that, but it's hard to process in my mind that it's 45 years ago. And it speaks volumes of the former president as well, because even young people have an understanding of who he was. I have a feeling he is going to be one of those historical figures. All presidents are historical figures, but there's always a 5 or 10 that will stand out. But my sense is that there's going to be a lasting impact by Reagan and the Reagan Revolution, because even young people are learning about how he impacted American politics 2 generations ago.
Well, I was going to get to this later, but this might be a very good segue. You're talking about Ronald Reagan and the impact he had on people. With the shooting death of Charlie Kirk. What do you think his impact and phenomenon is going to be within not only the Republican Party, but perhaps nationwide?
Well, I would have to say that it's amazing how much the awareness level has changed exponentially since that horrific event. I knew of Charlie Kirk. I understood he was an influencer. I couldn't have given you a paragraph about him before that tragic day. And then, of course, I went online. People tend to lean on me for commentary and whatnot. And I'm thinking, I remember there was an impact player among young people. I'm not a young person, so I wasn't looking to be impacted by somebody like that. I wasn't going to college campuses during the campaign and listening to him speak. But I got to know him. I literally do what we always do. We Google him and we figure it out. And I was amazed at what he did. And I was amazed when I was looking at the quotes, even before he passed, the extraordinary commentary the sitting president had provided him in the past, giving him, we know there's a pretty big ego in the Oval Office right now, so he doesn't always give maybe as much credit where credit is due. But with Charlie Kirk, he did. Even before that tragic assassination, he time and time again said he was the differentiating factor in his return to the White House. And he changed the dynamics of people under 35 and started the conversation. It wasn't happening in Republican politics for generations. So I knew that he meant a lot to the president. But now, when you see people like me and others, now I get Turning Point USA. I get 3 emails from them every day. I was never on any list. And I'm not sure. Maybe it's because when I did the search on him, I was looking at videos and they grabbed me. And now I get literally 3 different times a day, I'll get stuff from Turning Point USA. And then I heard about, his chapters growing like they were during his short life. And now the numbers are 3 times that. If the shooter wanted to end a movement, oh my God! Did he not only didn't end it, he shined the light on it so bright that now the power of Turning Point to effectively, wage a Republican and conservative debate among young people is in a stronger position than it's ever been. And what it can mean in the shortest of terms is the fact that we're 13 months away from an election that is probably every bit as important as a presidential election. This might be the most focused and consequential midterm, and you're older than me, in your life or mine. I mean, I have a feeling the type of money and attention that it's going to have next year is going to be enormous, and we're going to need to be moving young people like Charlie and his movement did through the years, and now that's exploded.
Yep. All right. So let me back up here a little bit. First of all, you are ahead of me. I had not heard of Charlie Kirk until his assassination.
Wow. Okay, so I had a little bit more than you. All right.
You got a lot more than I had. At least you had a paragraph you could write. So what is? All right. I've got a couple of different ways to go with this. The first reaction I have is that has he really just taken the place of the evangelical Christian movement within the Republican Party?
Well, to a degree, it definitely has those trappings. I mean, you can't ignore it. He wears it on it. He wore it on his sleeve, was willing to debate it. And some of those debates were provocative to me. I mean, he was willing to he wanted those tough questions on if I'm a believer and I believe, and I'm trying to convince you, I have to listen to all your reasons why you think I'm wrong, and I'm willing to take you on. And what's interesting is his talent was in debating. You never saw a 3-minute clip of him yelling at anybody. I mean, somebody could try to get him completely unhinged, say awful things about him, and his tone never changed. He never lost his way. So he wanted to be perceived as the reasonable person. Listen, as I learned about him, unless I always say, if you want to be if you want a candidate that believes everything you believe in, you need to run yourself. You're always going to have differences of opinion, and there are clear as a gay Republican. I have certainly concerns of some of his rhetoric related to the gay community, and it's troubling for me. But there's a large chunk of that pie I absolutely do embrace, and I could sort through it and understand there are some things that I could embrace and I believe are important. But more than anything, I was the oddity as a teenager for Reagan 2 generations ago. The average age in politics back then was the 50s. You were in your 50s or 60s. It was a gray-haired, blue-haired type of dynamic. And slowly that's changing. The Democrats, it certainly changed with kind of the Clinton era, and even more so with the Obama era, getting young people involved. But interestingly enough, the oldest president up to that point, Ronald Reagan, actually brought young people into government too because of his positive messaging for America, and that we're going to be great again on his watch. And he delivered on those promises. So young people who were downtrodden to a degree in the turbulent 60s and 70s were given wonderful hope and believed in America again. So as far as the Republicans is concerned, the last person that inspired young Republicans was probably Reagan. So now that this is happening, this movement with Charlie Kirk and Turning Point, it's important because young people are attaching themselves to the process. And you didn't know about them because, like me, you don't go to college campuses. You're not his target audience, and quite frankly, we have to realize that if you're under 35, and maybe you might even push it to 40 now. If you're under 40, all your politics, all your information, all your news, all your opinions is coming through social media. It's
right.
100%. So we're touching it from time to time. That they are absorbed by it. So we got to get there. We don't just check the box. We have to be there in social media to talk to these people. And he showed us how it's done. He gave us a roadmap. And his legacy will live on because don't throw people under the bus. Don't call people stupid. Don't agree to disagree. Do it with a civil tone, and be willing to take on the tough questions. I mean, let me tell you, you and I both always joke about it, between the professors and the kids, it's the most liberal bastion ever. You can talk to young people in a lot of places. He chose to go to universities where he knows he's going to get punched. But like my former boss, Senator Santorum, he loved that type of debate. He said, I could talk to the Republican county dinner in Center County all day long, but I'm not changing any hearts and minds. I'd rather you give me a group that doesn't agree with me, and I'd love to try to convince a quarter of them to come over. I mean, he loved that type of debating. So I've seen that type of messaging. Charlie Kirk did it brilliantly. We'll see if they can engage these young people, because let me tell you, it's not just about engaging young people. We have, by and large, for 20 years, lost that population completely. That's a population that we don't own even a little bit. So the fact that we could take any of these people and bring them back to the Republican Party, or at least bring them to vote for or consider Republican candidates, is a real problem for the Democrats, because they just took them for granted. They were their votes. But that's changing, and now, after the tragic events of a few weeks ago, it's changing to the point where there are literally 100,000 plus requests to engage, and apparently 30,000 requests to form new chapters. It is a movement.
Okay, this one very quick comment. You said that part of Charlie Kirk's appeal is that he was civil with people, didn't call names, didn't do that. But then you have the president of the United States. He does throw people underneath the bus. I mean, it's just
Sure.
a dichotomy here between those two. But you touched on this, and this will be my last question about Charlie Kirk here, and that is, can this movement really succeed without him? Can it continue without him being the focal point?
You and I don't know enough about him and his impact, because we just got to know him in a big way after he went home to heaven. I mean, so I don't know. Some movements need a 800-pound gorilla like that, need a personality. There are, I know, the board of directors with the Turning Point and others they're trying to figure out what that will mean, and who is going to take up that mantle. Do we need to have a committee of people? I mean, but they know that it's a larger than life personality, and there's a vacuum, and can they fill it with these conservative people from the commentators on that visit the Fox News and News Nation and all these other people, and people like the local people, Rose Tennant, people like that. I don't know where Rose is on Charlie Kirk, but she's also a voice that moved young people for years. And my sense is she probably liked his messaging, because there's a moral compass with Rose in her, and there was always a Christian undertone to what she believed, and believes, I should say. So the question that remains to be seen. But at least I think whether it has legs for the next generation without him, time will tell. But I can tell you that the movement will be alive and well next November. It will last at least a year. If they make bad decisions and they lose their way, they're not going to lose their way. It's fresh in their minds. People now are mourning him by embracing the movement. That's what they feel like they have to stay involved. If they believed in him and what he was trying to achieve, then they owe it to him. And I think that's going to exist at least safely through next year's midterm, which could be a dramatic positive effect for Republicans running for the United States House and United States Senate.
Okay, let's talk about positive things and negative things. The government shutdown. Is either party really going to come out a winner on this?
Well, the shutdown at least gets more attention than the fact we have no budget in Pennsylvania. I mean that we were supposed to have a budget in Pennsylvania, I think, in June 30th, and now we're months after that, and no news outlet even covers it. So it's not something that gets a lot of people's attention. Clearly, the ABCs, NBCs, CBSs, the CNN, they're all covering it. But news doesn't have to be sexy, but it's hard to get the average person interested in it unless maybe your job's affected by it. I'm sure they're very interested in it, and of course the federal government has a huge payroll, so I don't want to dismiss the fact that this is important, but it doesn't really grab the hearts and minds of people like the media wants it to. And is there winners and losers? I don't know. As I read the back and forth, both trying to score political points, this whole thing about health care, the president scored a huge win by closing the border. and doing it as quickly as he did. When people will throw numbers of 10, 15 million crossed in 4 years. I mean, huge numbers, and now they've proven that you can't close a border and you can stop this illegal migration into the United States. So people like that. So that messaging by the Speaker of the House and the Senate Majority Leader and whatnot, you see they're all playing up the fact, hey, they're fighting for health care, but just so you know, they're trying to find a way to give health care to non-citizens and illegal immigrants because they know that works with the American people. And that's simple enough to people to understand that those things were happening and this president stopped it. So if they can keep that focus on they're trying to change the dynamics on Obama, extending the Obama health care and restore money to Medicaid. If their messaging is centered on illegal immigrants and non-citizens, I think on balance, it's probably a 50-50, but a slight advantage for the Republicans. But in general, the bigger problem, Stacy, is the chaotic first 9 months. The fact that what the president presents on the way to the helicopter at 9 a.m. has changed by 5 p.m. when he gets back from somewhere. It's the Democrats have a hard time dealing with this. They can't get a solid message because it's a moving target almost all the time. And maybe purposely, maybe the only person that could pivot like that is a person that has one of the three branches of government and controls it, because he doesn't need a committee. He could decide to do things unilaterally because he's the president. And he showed his ability to do that and has pushed that envelope beyond anybody that we've ever seen. And then it ends up in the court or ends up being debated in Congress. But the fact is, the executive branch is called the executive branch. It's a one-member committee, okay? So he uses that in a way to put the Democrats off balance, and has done so brilliantly. Now the question is, the only way you can deal with a one-person committee is form your own one-person committee. And right now, there is no clear successor to carry the mantle for the Democrats. And until that woman or man is named and embraced, they're going to have a hard time dealing with the sitting president.
Well, you talk about his ability as an executive to make decisions, and some of these decisions are ending up in courts because a lot of it has to do with Congress controls the purse strings. You'd almost have to say allegedly right now, because this president is finding ways with his advisors to try to circumvent who really controls those purse strings. And one of those things, and I wonder whether this is going to come back to hurt or maybe will help him, and that is that through his Office of Management and Budget Director, they're threatening to get rid of thousands of federal jobs during this particular shutdown. Is this a kind of
That's not cloak and dagger. That's not behind the scenes in a backroom deal. He's telling it like he wants to own it. Just so you know, this is what I'm going to do. You want to go down this path? That's how brazen it is. Like, these are things you do. I found out he was doing this in the back room. No, he does it in the sunshine. He looks the reporters straight in the eye and says, "I'm going to go after these, people that aren't the jobs we don't need," and targeting largely a lot of the blue states, and what. So he is so transactional. So it's so apparent what he's doing, but he owns it. And as far as the purse strings are concerned, I have never. You say what you want about how he conducts himself. I get it. Who can we compare Trump to? Nobody. Yeah. I mean, there's no. You can say, well, it's the likes of. No, there's. Trump is an enigma unto himself that this country has never seen anything like it, and before we're called home, we'll never see anything like him again. So you almost don't know what to deal with. But in the narrowest of margins in the House and Senate, I don't remember in my lifetime a sitting president having both chambers, but having them by such slim majorities. But somehow his ability to hold them together and for them to carry his water is amazing to me. You would think that because of the chaotic nature so far of this administration, for good or ill. I mean, a lot of good has come out from this chaos too. But there would be a half dozen or a dozen people that say, not on my watch. I'm a representative from Louisiana, or I'm a senator from Iowa, and this doesn't represent. This is not how we do business. No, they don't do that. Somehow he keeps discipline among the ranks in the slimmest of majorities. So I don't know. That's what we don't hear about. I don't know whether he's on the phone or visits people or talks to them, but I know my Democratic friends that I have a lot of respect for, and have done this even as long as me or longer, are saying he's a magician. Like, I don't get how he's doing it. I can't believe that there's not people falling away, but somehow, Stacy, he's found a way to have the support he needed from his colleagues on the Hill.
I guess a lot of it, I don't want to get into this part of it. My guess would
be the re-election.
Yeah, the threat of being primaried. I mean, that's.
I agree, and they know he'll do it. It's not an idle threat, and which pivots. And I'm rambling now, but it also pivots to the fact, if you say, is it working? Do we really need this chaos? I mean, do the Republicans just want to survive him? You could say all those things, but they're breaking every fundraising record we've ever set. They're raising money hand over fist. They are so far ahead of Democratic fundraising that there is a reason to believe, even if they find a standard bearer to lead their party into the midterms and to be a kind of an equal footing with the president, I don't think they can catch us now. I mean, so people are writing checks, and it's not like it's to a nonprofit where they can report it on their taxes and get a tax deduction. I mean, it's the hardest thing to raise is political money, because sometimes it's like throwing money away, because they could do what they want with it and you don't get any benefit from it. You just trust they're going to do the right thing. But right now, Republican fundraisers in state houses, in governorships, in Senate races, in House races, and just the regular RNC are breaking records, Stacy. So apparently there are people that basically, as chaotic as it is, likes the tempo and are willing to say, I'll take my chances. Maybe because of what did or didn't happen for the last 4 years. We were so fatigued by the fact that there was inaction and no leadership that people are somehow attracted to this chaoticness, and how many times have we had those conversations, the Donahues and the Oprahs left office, their programs ended after 20, 25 years, and the guy from Cincinnati, what was his name? Jerry Springer. Springer lasted another 15 years. It's the ones you complain about them, but you can't look away. You are drawn to these people that have this type of energy and are throwing things to see what sticks. Somehow, maybe we were just fatigued by the last kind of dismal 4 years of the apology tour and taking a backseat to the world, and the economy suffering, and the porous border, and the crime in the cities, and the homelessness, and we had enough. And now it's like, give him a chance. Well, like you said, Stacy, in your lifetime, and you're north of 70, you've never seen 9 months like this in your life.
No, I want to touch on that in just a second here, but I want to go back to related to the shutdown. You talked about how the president has this hold over his own party, the Republican Party, the congressmen, the senators, mainly most of them. I'd say 99%, almost 98%.
Yeah, probably.
A couple of congressmen here or there will break over budget matters, but the Democrats. So this is a twofold question here. In the Senate, the Democrats have drawn, basically both the House and the Senate, they've drawn a line in the sand and taken this stand to force the shutdown of the government. They've been pushed to do this, everybody says, by the left side of the party. At the same time, in the Senate, 3 Democrat senators crossed that line. One of them, he does seem to do it more often than most of the others. At least that's just my calculation on this, and that is Senator John Fetterman, a Democrat who many thought was a progressive. He voted to continue the resolution House, the continuing resolution passed by the House to keep the government funded. So this is, I guess it's a twofold question. What about Fetterman and the other two senators who are doing this, bucking this stand by their party?
Well, I mean, the Republicans will play that up, I'm sure, in social media. They'll play it up in advertising dollars at some point, showing that as unreasonable as they want to draw comparisons to the sitting president, and there are people in their own ranks willing to break in favor of his policies or in favor of his initiatives. That's going to be an issue that's going to help us. It's a little bit more difficult, obviously, in the Senate with the 60 vote rule and whatnot. So people don't completely understand that, but they understand that 3 sitting elected Democrats are willing to break ranks and join the Republicans. So that's something that people can understand, can figure that out, and they can't say tit for tat where, oh well, we have these Republicans doing that with the Democrats. No, we don't. The Republicans are lined up in lockstep with the Republican agenda. And as you pivot to our sitting senator here, in the senior senator actually from Pennsylvania, Mr. Fetterman, he's at the point now where he has to wear this image because he's carved it out now. Now he's smart if he has good advisors and good consultants, Stacy. I think they have to say, we've went down this path, now we have to own it. I mean, the fact is, when the national polling for the president in the swing states is still good, in the swing states that he won in the years, he swept them all. That polling, and Pennsylvania it could be registered Democrat, it could be a purple state, but right now, the sitting president won Pennsylvania. And right now, the polling in Pennsylvania says there's still significant amount of Democratic support of registered Democrats for the president's policies in Washington. So he's riding that, it's a narrow, listen, nobody wins by big margin. They win on the margins. You have to decide what side you want to be on, and right now and if nothing else, even if they don't understand policies, Pennsylvanians like renegades. They like people that upset the apple cart and get noticed and say, I'm going to fight for what I believe in. No one's going to tell me what to do. And that's kind of what as he's gotten better from his health ailments. The new senator is a renegade, is a guy that wants to break decorum, and obviously he's the favorite Democratic senator on all Fox News channels. I can tell you that.
Yes.
I mean, at least once a week. And is that a big deal? Sure, it's a big deal because millions of people are watching. I mean, they got bigger numbers than the network. So that type, and you can't buy that. I mean, that's worth millions of dollars to Fetterman if he's the go-to guy among Democrats. So I think it's a smart move by him. I still think it's going to be a contentious race, and as they say, depending on who we field, Stacy, the biggest race for him could be the primary. He's got to survive a primary because all the Democrat standard bearers in Pennsylvania are coming after him.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, he's running a chance of being ousted within his own party because of that. And this goes back. That's why I said it's a twofold question, because the Democrats have drawn a line in the sand over the government shutdown, and they've decided to go more left because they received so much criticism for the last time that this happened. So if the Democratic Party is indeed moving more toward the left, that puts Fetterman in sort of a problematic state in the primary. On a general election, I think he's smart as can be, because taking the stands that he has and appearing on Fox News, and that, the T of Pennsylvania, which is supposedly solid Republican, he did very well with that when he ran the first time, or maybe the second time, I guess it is. So he just has to get through the primary, and it's going to be interesting to see. So my question now on all of this is, from your perspective as a Republican, are the Democrats making a mistake by drawing a line in the sand over this and moving more toward the left?
That's a softball question. I mean, if I can't hit this one out of the park, shame on me. I mean, it's almost like scratch your head thinking, who's in charge? I mean, did they not get the fact that the reason that the president came back to the Oval Office is they lost their way among blue-collar Democrats, among the average Democrats that have a certain belief in this long and spirited and traditional party that the Democratic Party is on all these years, and went too far left. They literally. I had this conversation with a Catholic priest last night over dinner and said, because there's a lot of frustration among a lot of Catholic hierarchy on some of the things Trump's doing, but they also admit that they gave it to Trump. The Democrats, we have to be angry. If they're Democrats, you have to be angry at themselves, because in the end, the swing states were running the ad on transgenders more than they were running it on the border. When I'd have bet the house that it was going to be the border, and I said as much many times over. But then when they gave me the crosstabs in late November of last year, they spent a third more money on transgender issue than they did on the border in swing states, because it was getting them votes. It was moving numbers. And what is that about? It was about an agenda that is too attached to the far left. And they needed to learn something from that. And I've said on previous programs, in previous discussions, Stacy, the path for the Democrats nationally has to be somebody that has zero trappings whatsoever to 2020, didn't get involved, played a low profile, endorsed nobody, and could run against 2020 and say, in 2020, we lost our way as Democrats. We lost our base. We were paying attention to a far left, extremist, progressive agenda that our rank and file no longer could embrace. And I'm gonna bring us back to where we should be, like Jimmy Carter said, like Bill Clinton, a small-time governor of Arkansas, said, like the first-term governor Obama said. They came from nowhere and became the standard bearers and the presidents of the United States, and they weren't part of any of the establishment. All three of them were complete outsiders or newbies. And that's what's going to happen, I would suggest, if they are successful in 28, is it's going to be somebody like the Brashear, like we've talked about in the past, the son of the former governor, I think it's Steve Brashear, from Kentucky, who stayed out of the 2020 cycle, but he's a very reasonable Democrat. It's going to be somebody they haven't even heard of. That's the only thing they can do, because any of these people that are continuing to double down on these far left, progressive agenda, they're just digging a bigger hole for themselves, because the American people and the swing Democrats have left you on those issues, and they're going to stick with the Republicans until you have a more reasonable voice.
Good. All right, Keith, we're out of time. Believe it or not, we didn't get to
Imagine that.
Imagine that.
And we were nervous whether we could fill it.
Yeah, exactly. I had no doubt that we could fill it.
I know. I ramble sometimes. I apologize, but I enjoyed the conversation.
I enjoyed it immensely as well, and we'll continue this conversations. And by the way, if you're watching or listening to this podcast, I urge that you hit the like or the subscribe button. But that does it for right now. Thanks again for joining us, and thanks to Keith Schmidt for this edition of Trunk and Tales. We'll see you again the next time.